Hello, I'm Hugh Coakley from the Guildford Dragon News. The Dragon is 10 this month. In March 2012, it had 3,908 pages viewed. That's an impressive beginning, but it now gets that every day, around 3,000 to 5,000 pages viewed daily, and it reached the peak of 210,000 in the month of December 2020. These numbers show that the Dragon is meeting a need in our borough, providing local news, views, and encouraging debate. And it's become a point of record for Guildford now, with an extensive 10-year archive of what has been happening in our town. And it's seen by many to have supplanted the mighty Surrey Advertiser as the local newspaper. So why has it been a success? What have been the highlights of those 10 years, and where will the Dragon go next? So we're talking today to Martin Giles, editor and co-founder, and David Rose, historian and co-founder of the Guildford Dragon News, about those issues. Thanks for joining me today, Martin and David, and congratulations to you both.
Thank you, Hugh.
Right, Martin, can I start with you? How do you feel about reaching 10 years of publishing the Dragon?
Well, I guess, how do I feel about that? I think it's come along, and it hasn't been a sort of momentous thing, and because the Dragon has just been continuing, and it's become part of my everyday life, for better, for worse. And I mean, it is quite demanding, but you know, it is a milestone. We're looking back a decade. I think this decade has been quite momentous in British history, in local history. Lots of things have happened. If we could have chosen a decade to start covering Guildford news, I think we'd have been hard pushed to find a better one, with all the things that have gone on locally, obviously the local plan and the pandemic, and the impact of international events on the borough too. So that's a fact, I think, that it has been a very newsworthy decade. But I mustn't go on further without thanking all those people that have been involved in the Dragon, because obviously there are the three of us. We form the sort of core editorial team, but over the years there have been numerous contributors to the Dragon, and they've all played their part and all added to the content, and so I'm very grateful to them, and I hope those that are still involved continue for a long time yet. And also I would want to thank, perhaps most importantly, our readers, because we're nothing without readers. And not only do they read the Dragon, but they make some fantastic contributions themselves through their comments and letters. And you know, often when people open a local newspaper, they go straight to the letters. So we do value them very much.
Give us a couple of highlights over the last 10 years.
Well, I think obviously we had the demise of some councillors and the adoption of the local plan, that the coverage of the Monica Juneja, the councillor that ended up with a court case in the Old Bailey. I mean, it's not a pleasant story, but you know, from a journalistic point of view, very interesting. I can remember sitting outside the courtroom at the Old Bailey and being handed out summaries by one of the barristers, and he said, "Where are you from?" And the first person said BBC. "Where are you from?" ITN. "Where are you from?" The Surrey Advertiser. "Where are you from?" The Guildford Dragon News. and to his credit, he didn't turn a hair and just gave me the summary. But that was one of the things. I don't know. It's hard to pick out particular highlights. What do you think, David?
Well, actually, I'm a person who doesn't really look back, and I know as a historian I do, but I've been in the news game for a long time, and to me, I'm always looking forward to the next story. What might be something I'm writing myself, or editing something that's been sent in, or one of their contributors and things like that. So yeah, I'm very much that, but I'm thinking back to actually how we started 10 years ago, and if anyone believes in things like the planets and the stars being aligned in the right place, there's something magical about how this started, because Martin, you were sort of free from the work that you've been doing as your main employment. I chucked in the Surrey Advertiser at 2011 because it was just getting on my nerves and I needed some time out. Martin and I have known each other for well over 30 years on and off, and we seem to come together. Martin was, of course, editing a website for the St Catherine's Village, and I was writing a bit for that. And then it sort of morphed into the Guildford Dragon News in, as I say, 2012. And it was just as if it's, and I don't know about other people, but sometimes in my life, things have just been meant to be. Things have just sort of, there's planning, I know, but some things happen, a magical thing. And I think that happened 10 years ago.
Do you think we knew what we would take? Sorry, Hugh, I don't mean to take over.
No.
Do you think we knew what we were taking on, what we were undertaking?
No, not really, because I think we both knew that, of course, the Surrey Advertiser was so strong then as a news force in Guildford, along with sort of local radio and things. And we were just doing our bit because we were enjoying doing it. One, we definitely wanted to give a different type of coverage, a coverage that was being seen to be reducing so much more by the established media outlets. And with this technology of being able to have a newspaper online as opposed to investing money in it, and the fact that we've run it really on nothing financially, to me, I'm really proud of that. So I think it's great. And it's community. You know, I'm really big on community, and we are community. We're part of that community now, luckily, hopefully. And yeah, so that's my sort of things looking back that I cherish, and I will do always.
It
all came together.
It is fantastic, isn't it? It really is, as you say. It's a community effort. David, the Dragon covers local politics, town centre retail, history, arts, sport, nature, and so on and on and on. Why do you think people log into the Dragon every day?
Well, of course, it is a good news source, isn't it? I know we're blowing our own trumpets here, but it is. We're managing to, by again the magic of it, to actually produce a hell of a lot of copy and material. I'm using sort of news terms here and that, but that again is the contributions we have. But also, I don't think we turn down ideas. You know, I know where in other local newspapers there would be a sort of format of that there would be this and that, and there wouldn't be other things. But we've really embraced, if someone comes up with an idea who wants to write something for us, okay, it's with their editorial control. But we're very open for the types of things that we can include in it. And so it's a newspaper and a magazine and a journal. And as you said, it's now a point of reference, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Martin, the Dragon started on a shoestring and it's continued on a shoestring. Can it continue like that? What will change?
No, the short answer is no, it can't continue like that. And so we need to look at ways at making it financially sustainable. That's a huge challenge. It's not just a challenge for the Dragon, it's a challenge for local journalism throughout Britain, throughout many countries, because the obvious change that's happened is that the monopoly on advertising has gone. And therefore, you know, where does the money come from to underpin it? In America, they have more of a tradition of philanthropy. People make contributions to support local journalism. Here, that's not so strong. Some people have suggested the government should pay, but I think a lot of us are a bit worried about that. If they start paying, will they want any control?
Jumping back one, at the moment, Martin, we're all volunteers.
We're all volunteers, yes.
Nobody gets paid on the Dragon. So
no.
Do we need the advertising revenue? Why do you think that we need the advertising
Well, we need the
revenue?
advertising revenue unless we're going to pay the overheads from our own pockets. So that's the main reason we need the advertising revenue. Anything that's over, we share out as a small reward for what we do, but of course it's paltry in comparison with the time we spend on the Dragon.
But to be sustainable, we do need.
No, it's not sustainable.
We can't depend on you as the editor, myself and David as reporters.
No. I started out saying it's not sustainable, and we need to find a better model, because if we don't, the Dragon will finish. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I'm 66. You know, neither of you two are spring chickens. So we definitely need to find some way of changing the financial structure so that we can, essentially, we need to pay people. So we need to get enough money to start paying a small team to keep the Dragon going forward. That's not to say that there won't still be a place for volunteers. I think actually voluntary contributions are very valuable. They bring a different element. When people do things voluntarily, they're enthusiastic enough, you know, they're not just doing it to pay the bills, they're doing it because they think it's important, and so they bring a different type of contribution, I would say, in many cases. So I hope that the voluntary contributions will continue, but they need to be underpinned, I think, by a small professional paid core of an editor at least, and a business manager, and then we can see where we can go. Because I think we're all aware that for whatever we're doing, we could do it so much better if we had more resource. You know, we do miss stories. Every newspaper misses stories, but I mean, we know that there are other things going on in Guildford that if we had more reporters, we could cover. And some of them aren't sort of the typical news things. They're the everyday cultural events. They're the everyday charity events. They're the parish council meetings. All those things could be covered more extensively if we had more resource.
I mean, it's interesting to note that there's no shortage of news in Guildford.
No.
And I believe I heard so there's three of us here, plus half a dozen people who do a monthly column or input, or, you know, something from the parishes. But did I read somewhere that the Surrey Advertiser has 3 journalists who cover the entire county of Surrey and Hampshire? So in terms of resources, we're not doing too bad. It's keeping those resources practically going over time, isn't it? There's no way, I don't think I'll be doing this in 10 years' time, and I don't suppose you will either. So we do need the resources, I think.
No, well, it's what as I said, you know, it's not just the Dragon that's facing this issue, but we are facing it in a different way because we're sort of at the bottom level. We're relying purely at the moment on voluntary effort. But the challenges are for local journalism throughout. David,
you worked on the Surrey Advertiser for many years. It's a bit of a David and Goliath thing, but what do you think is the difference between the Surrey Ad and or Get Surrey now and the Dragon?
It's a bit of, I remember when I first started in 1978 as a young advertising clerk. The thing that strikes me was the actual amount of staff there were then, because there was an awful lot of people. I don't know, perhaps nearly up to 100, really, if you included our newspapers within the group, you know, and because advertising was king. The local newspapers were making money hand over fist in those days, and of course it was very labour intensive, because not only was the advertising and the journalists, of course there were typesetters, proofreaders, printers, and so on. And though we were all in our own departments, and there was definitely rivalry between them, there was, without doubt, there was a sort of a thing of we're all in it together. And what I've always liked doing, even as a kid, I've liked making things, you know, whether it's making models or drawing pictures and things like that. I like producing things, and I've continued to do that in other things as well. And what I loved about really the days when the Surrey Advertiser and its associated papers were printed in Martyr Road, you know, you'd be in the office upstairs and the press would go, and it would be, I don't know, Monday lunchtime, it'd be the Aldershot News and Mail, and you could go down and get a copy hot off the press, exactly as, you know, as the term says. And then on a Thursday evening, if you hung around, you know, by about 7 o'clock, the press would roll for the Surrey Advertiser and that. So it was, of course, that's so different, you know, and over time, the Surrey Advertiser stopped printing at Guildford because it only had a mono press, and the advertisers wanted colour, not the news. It was the advertisers who wanted colour adverts. So hence it transferred over to Reading. And of course, what was the original company changed from a family firm into the Guardian Media Group, and then Trinity Mirror took it over, and of course the changes have gone. And yeah, we had some great times, social things as well. Obviously you would do, you know, going up to the pub at the end of the working week and things like that. And of course the Guildford Dragon News is different, obviously, but I like the fact that, one, I can do it from home, and I can log in at any time of the day or night because I am a bit of a night owl and that. And also, I guess the thing is that I can write, or I say work on, i.e. sub-edit, stories that interest me. I'm not interested in everything. And I think we're lucky that between those of us and our contributors, we've got our sort of specialities. So I'm not being forced to say you will sub this story for page 3 of the Esher News and Mail or something like that sort of thing, and something that didn't really interest me. Now I do what I want to do on this. And yeah, but it's still a team effort. I still feel it's a team effort, even though we're all working. We do come together. I know we do, don't we, for some things? But essentially, it's yeah, we're on our own, but we're still a team.
It's a very Martin can continue.
Yeah, just a couple of things on that. I mean, obviously, an essential difference, the one that we intended right from the start, was that the Guildford Dragon is a Guildford-centric news publication. We only cover, by and large, we only cover news that affects the Guildford Borough. And we thought about that because it was my belief then, and it remains, that people in this country, and it's not the same everywhere, in this country, I think that people are very interested in national news, more so than they are certainly in North America, where I worked as a journalist. And but they're also interested in very local news. But I don't think a lot of people in Guildford are that bothered about what goes on in Dorking or Red Hill if it doesn't affect them here in Guildford. But the other thing is, local news, wherever you are, I think it can often affect you much more than the big events happening on the international stage, because whether the bins are being collected properly and efficiently is a big deal for us. It might be a mundane issue, but we all know what happens when they're not being collected properly. People are soon complaining about it, and it becomes newsworthy. So that's that. But if I also might mention about community, which David mentioned, which I completely agree with, and where that really came to light was during the pandemic, and our figures went up because everyone was isolated. So the Guildford Dragon was somewhere where you could go into and find out what was going on in your area. You may not be able to go down the street because of the restrictions, but at least you could see what was going on through the Guildford Dragon. Now that hopefully just showed that the community spirit is often apparent, but sometimes it's latent, but it is there in Guildford and of course in most communities. But it's something I hope that the Guildford Dragon can mirror and can encourage.
David, a couple of sentences. How do you see the Dragon changing? How do you see it developing?
Well, as Martin said, it's tricky, isn't it? Because we will at some point step back or reduce what we do. I feel a little bit like that now. 10 years is a milestone. I'm perhaps starting to look ahead where I'm going. Not going anywhere particularly at the moment. Yeah, we'd like to continue it. I think, of course, it may be in times to come that if we do hand over the reins in a sustainable way to somebody else, perhaps they will change it. And time changes, doesn't it, as well with things. So it may be what we're doing at the moment in 7-8 years' time might not be as relevant. So it will need fresh impetus.
Yeah.
But there's no crystal ball to gaze into and work that out.
Martin, how do you see it changing? How do you see it developing? I
really don't know, because I think it all depends on what we can think up about how we can make the Dragon sustainable. And we haven't overcome that challenge. We are thinking actively now of how we can do that, but it will require the support of a lot of other people. And we may not succeed, but we will try and make it a sustainable publication, because a lot of people tell us that Guildford needs the Dragon, and that's a huge compliment to us. And it makes me proud actually to hear those comments coming in. Yeah, so it's really work in progress, and at the moment I can't forecast how it's going to go.
Martin, David, and the Dragon team. Here's to another 10 years at least.
Hope so.
Thanks for that. Thanks for joining the Guildford Dragon News interview and the Guildford Dragon News reporters.
Thank you, Hugh.
Thanks.